Good evening and welcome to July 17, 2023 Common Council City Connersville. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Bill Gray.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, may be seated. I'd like to welcome everyone. Just remind you to please turn your cell phone ringers off. We will begin with roll call.
Councilman Williams Jr.,
Present.
Councilwoman Phillips,
Present.
Councilman Robb,
Present.
Councilman Gray,
Present.
Councilman Collins, Councilman Warner,
Here.
Councilwoman Barrett. Present.
Okay, everyone has the minutes from the July 3rd, 2023 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're going to move on down to some new business here. We have approval of resolution 2023-66, a preliminary tax abatement. Taylor, you want to come up and introduce yourself, sir?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for having me. It's the second trip I've made up here. I know the Mayor and Dan and myself and Miss Diane have spent a lot of time together, but come to you on behalf of preliminary resolution to approve a tax abatement on behalf of two of my clients who will be operating a plant together at the 7474 Western factory location. It is a great project. It's one we spent a lot of time working on. One I know the mayor is fired up about, and we're really looking forward to having both of these companies come in and really adding to the vibrant community you have here in Connersville. So thank you for your time. Any questions, happy to take them. If not, I'll retreat back to the back. I'm from the South, so I'm a back row Baptist.
Thank you, sir, for coming up here and introducing yourself. So basically what we're doing tonight is approving resolution 2033-66. It just sets the public hearing for the abatement. You have the information in front of you for the abatement, but the public hearing will be at the, I just lost it now, July 28th at 10 a.m. to finalize this. So does anyone have any questions on that process? We can't give names or anything yet, so we got to still hold on to it. So if not, entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-66.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We will see you Friday, July 28th at 10 a.m. right here. So
Looking forward to making the trip back and bringing some good company folks with us to speak to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for
so
your
much.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the public hearing of pending ordinance 3901, the additional appropriation for restricted funds. I will now open the public hearing. Is there any comments from the public over the opioid restricted funds use? Nope. Okay, I will close the public hearing and open up for questions from council. If there's no questions from council, I would entertain approving pending ordinance 3901 on first reading.
So Motion. moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Have a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And do I have a motion for third and final reading?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And on to item C, we have Adam Stone from Stone Municipal presenting a 6-month budget review. Adam?
Good evening. Let me share my screen. Okay, my understanding is you all have a printed out copy of this as well, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Very, very good. So the information I'm going to show you tonight is both for council and the public alike. This is unaudited results through June 2023. So in other words, the first half of the fiscal year relative to the City Council budgeted funds. This ties back to the adopted budget that the council adopted last fall and compares the year-to-date actual activity in a summarized fashion and in a detailed fashion back to those amounts, both for revenues and expenses. As some of you may recall, the revenue budget is a relatively new concept that we're still working through. This is the first year the city has formally adopted a revenue budget alongside the expense budget, at least through the public formal process. The main operating fund of the city is the general fund. It is essentially the main payroll, clearing, essential service operation fund of the city. But there are a variety of other funds that are special purpose, like motor vehicle highway, local road and street, parks, aviation, etc., that have very specific charters or specific purposes. And then there are some trust and fiduciary funds that really serve for pension clearing, pension obligations, specifically the fire pension and police pension at the bottom. Those are really pass-throughs, but we do include them for transparency purposes. Focusing on the main operating fund for a moment, the year-to-date actual revenues came in at 56% of the year-to-date budget halfway through the year, so slightly ahead of what we anticipated. And the expenses came in right at 50% of the annual budget for the first 6 months, or 50% through the year. So for the first 6 months, the actual general fund performance has been significantly more favorable than we initially forecasted. The budget on an annual basis was estimating that the general fund would actually have a net deficit. The current year-to-date values are actually cash flow positive. You can see the results by fund. Some of the funds had significantly higher revenues. We're factoring that in to make sure that we're not being too conservative on revenue going forward for the 2024 cycle. So overall, really good performance, 55% on revenue budget to actual. Some of this is timing, so we have to be very careful not to over anticipate that this will just simply trend on. Some of these things, like for example, the spring tax distribution is historically in Connersville slightly larger than the fall distribution of taxes. The best explanation of that is some individuals just pay once per year in the spring. The other aspect of that is on the expense side, the budget is holding up very well overall across all funds, across all line items. Essentially, it's at 49% attainment. So it's showing that our overall budget estimate, for the most part, is largely intact. As you drill into the line item detail, you'll see there's some that are higher or lower utilization, but on average, overall, the expense budget is relatively right on track to the initial forecast that we made essentially this time last summer. The second page tries to project the current year activities for the rest of the year. It should be noted that this forecast is very conservative. In this case, we're really just using the budgeted numbers to guide the forecast. So in this case, we're looking at the remaining budget, revenue budget, remaining expense budget, and assuming both of those are attained. It is computing then the various different projected net results, various different ending fund balances. This is mostly to make sure that on a conservative forecast, we want to make sure that the cash and liquidity is there for the city. So you can see on the operating reserves, they're all positive. And again, as we said in our first quarter budget update that we're able to do in person, we want to target on governmental funds such as these no less than about a 16 to 18% reserve, and really not necessarily, unless there's a specific savings purpose, doesn't necessarily need to be much higher than about 50 to 100% of budget either. So all the funds fit within that category. There's actually some that are slightly above that we can think about utilizing those funds on hand in other needed areas. And overall, as a community on the governmental side, about 27%. Okay. The rest of the document is includes a budget calendar and our current status attached there, as well as all the line item details for anyone that's interested in reviewing that. And again, these are year-to-date, unaudited, and subject to change, but we wanted to provide you a mid-year update. The last item I'll say, and then I'll pause for questions, is in the budget calendar, which is on page 3 of the packet. It walks through all the different steps going through. Relatively on track with this, possibly even slightly ahead. The tentative dates that we're looking at for the public would be budget introduction on September 5th. For 2024, we'd be looking to schedule a public hearing, and we've noticed that 10 days prior on the September 18th. And then lastly, we're working backwards from a tentative budget adoption of October 8th. Again, all this is still somewhat subject to change as we move to it, but in the spirit of trying to share as much as possible, that is where we stand. So with that, let me pause and see if there's any questions. All right, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, item D, we have approval of the help grant SIP. Andrea?
Hello,
Hello.
how's everybody?
Good.
My name's Andrea Napier. I am the community coordinator for the City of Connersville. As you guys remember, I was here about 2 months ago and presented 3 different projects that we would like to submit for the help grant program, the Future Enduring Legacy program that the city is involved in. So what I have been working on the last 2 months is this official document. It's called the Strategic Investment Plan, or SIP for short. And this was a partnership with Purdue University. They helped me. I really brought together all the content, and they put it into this professional actual portfolio for these 3 projects. So I will quickly kind of just run through the 3, but nothing has changed since I've been here. We haven't taken away anything or added anything to any of the projects. This is just giving it a little bit more scope and a little bit more detail, this actual documentation. But the projects that we are talking about, there are 3 different site areas. Number 1 is the redevelopment of the northeast corner of Roberts Park. And in that area, we are wanting to add a skate park and a BMX pump track. We would also like to implement a youth engagement program for at least 2 years that targets mental health, wellness, physical activity, and a mentorship program. We would also like to remove the existing playground and replace with a new design, and update and renovate the public restroom there to offer full year access. The project site number 2 is the development of Office Park. In Office Park, we would like to actually rebrand that and create it into be a public fitness park. And in that fitness park, we would like to build an actual fitness court, which is an outdoor exercise court with equipment and a rubber floor mat for outdoor exercise. We would also like to add walking paths around the property and also bottle refilling station and a sanitized station to Office Park. And then site 3 is River's Edge, and that is just only what we are calling phase 1 completion of a 3-phase project to complete out River's Edge. But phase 1 is all we're focusing on with this funding, and that is really all of the ADA requirements that we're not satisfied with the DNR grant. That is putting us in non-compliancy right now. So it's all of the ADA regulations, also putting in the septic tank, the ADA seating, and also doing a little bit of grading around the areas so that when the parking spaces and the septic get put in, everything's graded to our final desired site levels and things like that. All right, so those are the 3 projects. Again, nothing's changed. So what I'm hoping for tonight is a vote of approval from City Council so that we can adopt this as our final document, and I can submit this to OCRA as our final projects to be funded.
Mike Kleinpeter is also here. He's the grant administrator for this project, so if you have really specific questions, he's the guru that can answer those.
Yeah, he's going to be doing all the actual official paperwork and documentation, making sure that we stay in line with all of the OCRA requirements and federal regulations as well.
Anybody have any questions for Andrea or comments or anything?
With 3 projects going on at once, under one umbrella, does it prioritize one project over the other with potential of cost increases, whether it be through weather, whether it be through material increases? How do you start 3 projects to ensure they get done and yet complete them without the potential of things running over. Because
Without running over.
about every project in the world has some kind of change order, has some kind of issue where it prolongs it or it increases funding. So how do we
Mike, why don't you come on up?
how do we keep from having, at the end of this said amount, how do we at the end of it not have 3 undone projects?
Sure. Good evening, Council. Mike Klein-Peter Consulting Group. Have been fortunate enough to work with the city on multiple grants over multiple years. This grant is a little different than the traditional Ochre grants we've applied for. In the past, we've had a scope of work, and that's exactly what we have to do. In this one here, I think my recommendation would be that when we bid this project out, we have some alternates. And so that way, if costs do come in high, we can go back to Ochre and say, hey, let's take out this alternate to keep us on budget. Because we do have a limited budget for these projects. So that's not something Ochre normally allows, but because this is a special program with special situations, I think they would be okay with that. I'd have to go through the formal approval before we bid it out of letting them know what those alternatives are and making sure they're okay with it. But that way, if something does come in over, because we bid out a lot of projects this year and everything's coming in high, we've got kind of a little bit of a safety net that we can back out some stuff if we have to. As far as timing, Ochre really wants to see these applications submitted by the end of the year. And they really want to see that the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, is allocated and moving quickly. And so that's where we're going to come in, is as soon as this gets formalized, send it to Ochre for their blessing. They're going to then let us know, hey, we're good to start on these projects. First step for us is doing the environmental review, making sure that State Historic Preservation Office, DNR, Indiana Geological, they don't have any issues with the project. That usually takes 60 to 90 days. So we're still a little ways out, but this is kind of the next step in the process.
So it doesn't necessarily prioritize one project over another.
I think ultimately it's up to you guys what is the highest priority project. Ochre has granted us this pot of money and it's up to us to decide how to spend it. Is that correct?
Yes, almost, except for the one fact that we have 2 separate funding pools, essentially. We have CDBG dollars and then we have our city's ARPA match. If you're thinking of River's Edge, CDBG dollars will not pay for the project at River's Edge because it doesn't tie back to COVID, but we are allowed to use the ARPA side of the funding for that. With this grant, we do have to utilize and spend out all of the CDBG dollars first. That's the only prioritization that we have to follow.
And that's because those funds will end up expiring if we don't get moving on. But I think we want to move as quickly as council wants to move, and Ochre will let us move.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you both. You did a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I just need a motion to approve the health grant SIP.
Motion.
Have a motion in several seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? I don't know how you're going to get that one, but good job on it.
Just pick.
Thank you very much, everybody.
you.
Thank you for
Mike.
your work, Andrea.
Okay, we have approval of resolutions 2023-67 through 68 reimbursements. Shelley?
Okay, 202367 is a $150 reimbursement into DOT vehicle repair, and 202368 is a $250 reimbursement appropriated into police telephone.
Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-67 through 68.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on down to the department reports. Start with Director Coleman.
I'll start with the utilities report. Imagine you've looked over those a little bit. A few of the things I wanted to point out to you. We have, we're moving forward, continuing to work on our new water well. We had to replace a water well with the exciting news you talked a little bit about today, and a big potential, or a big water user coming to us. I need to get that well online, so we're moving forward. We've been waiting on it's very hard to get somebody to survey property these days. We've been all over this part of the state trying to get somebody, but I think we finally now have a surveyor. And once we get that surveyed, we can start to get this well drilled and get it installed so it'll be up and running in plenty of time for us to turn on some extra pumps. So the other thing I wanted to tell you, might have seen a van around town that says Aqualine on it. That's the group that's doing our leak survey for us. They're out trying to find leaks all over town and hopefully find out where some of our water loss is at. So we're looking forward to getting some answers on that. What else did I want to tell you about? Everybody over in East Connersville knows that the things have been disrupted pretty good over there. I got some news this morning. We sort of thought they were just doing the sidewalks or the curbs, and I got to looking at some of those sidewalks and they were pretty beat up, so we're finding out they're gonna replace some of the sidewalks. So I don't know who decided which ones they're gonna do, and if it looks like they're just doing some of the worst sections. So, but one thing I just did want to remind people, try to be safe over there. I know that it really disrupts people getting to work, but we've had people driving through our drive-through backwards and meeting cars head on in the driveway just because they're trying to cut through somewhere to get somewhere. And they're pretty much using the alleys as streets right now, so just take your time, try to be careful. I can't get a firm date exactly how long this is going to be like this, but it's going to be for a little bit. We're also going to be out hot patching some of those alleys over there because they're getting beat up. They're getting treated like streets right now, aren't they?
I was gonna mention that, the alley north-south east of Vine Street has pretty severe holes in it. Plus the overgrowth, they can't see some of the signs. It's supposed to be where you don't turn in, the one-way alleys. So if that could be addressed, I'd appreciate it.
Luke and I were talking about all that this morning. They're going to try to give it some attention tomorrow with patching and trimming back some of the limbs over there. So
One-way alleys is probably not very good right now.
no, it's very it's been dangerous really.
Yeah.
There's some pretty big holes over there.
Yep, we'll get on those this week. So
And,
on the days when
and
it's not
rightfully
raining.
so, because, they're seeing more traffic than they should be seeing.
Yep. So, I was going to tell you about the street department report. You can see that we've been working cleaning up a lot of properties. I mean, we've been, this past month, really cleaning up a lot of properties, and it has been our young summer helpers that's been helping us with those quite a bit. You've probably seen them out working. I tried to, I put a picture of them on Facebook recently just so people could see who they were, because they've been out. Really good group of kids this year, and they're really stepping up to work hard for us. So, the last thing I was going to tell you, somebody asked me at Board of Works today about the trestle. The mayor and I met with Lindsay Patterson, and I guess now we have a meeting date set to get with NDOT and go along with the railroad and try to plead our case to them to give us some relief to help us figure out a good solution for the situation there. A lot of options on the table, but it feels pretty good to have the railroad in our corner with us now on this. I think that'll help us get something done. Anybody have any questions?
I have a couple. Are you still working on the pumping session at the end of the block down there on the end of John and Parsley? Because of the odor?
I check that about once a week myself, and I try to answer complaints when somebody that lives over there complains, but I just really haven't seen it as a huge issue. You might see it differently, but I try to get over there and check it, and it just really doesn't seem too bad.
There's times when it's worse than others. There's times when you can't have windows open because of it. It goes about mid-block up and over on Parsley as well. Depends on which way the wind's blowing, obviously. The mowed properties, that doesn't, it's not compliant with the enforcement's copy. Is there a reasoning for that?
As far as what, the numbers that we're
Yeah.
reporting that we're doing, and
Yeah, is there a,
probably because his report runs
Yeah.
for a different time period than ours.
I was wondering about that, but I wasn't gonna assume that.
I think Nick's may run from meeting to meeting, and ours run from beginning of the month to the end of the month, is probably what that's about.
Okay. Has
Yeah,
the city ever
because you're-
entertained the idea of contracting that?
Yeah. We, matter of fact, last year when we got covered up with a few things, we did bring a private person in to do some of those for us.
And
It's-
I'm not trying to take away work from other people, but I think there's more than enough work for the city employees to do besides mow unkept properties, as you know.
I'm certainly not against it. I don't know how anybody else feels, but we just haven't, we sort of ran into last year when we were exploring that, a lack of good options of people that wanted to do it. We talked to a few people and none of it really worked out, so.
I just wondered if it was advertised, if these mowing concerns would be interested in putting bids in on XYZ properties or whatever, however
I
it
think-
works out.
Sure, something we could look at. I mean, in the summertime, when we have the young men and ladies working for us, we can keep up fairly decent, but when they go back to school and all that, it gets a little tougher.
Right. I mean, it would utilize the businesses that we have here in the local communities.
Yeah.
Just a thought of the day.
I'm all for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Director Pawsey. Gotta get your tech now.
Figured I'd do this patient. For the month of June, we did 11 hours, 14 minutes of meeting production, 7 hours, 50 minutes of original production. Real quick, the area planning meeting is currently meeting out at the Y Center right now. We were going to stream that live, but we're blocked by the school's network. We were supposed to be able to get through, but something stopped us, so we had no access to fix that. So we're recording that. It'll be on tomorrow. So. What we're looking at over here is Community Youth Day from last Thursday was held at the park, and we do this pretty much every year. We'll go out there and we'll set up a green screen for kids to play on. We chroma key them over video, and it'll either be flying through clouds, swimming through water, or bouncing around on the move. I'm shuttling kids in and out, and Justin's over there, spinning them around and upside down, and the laughter is hilarious. So. I didn't think that would work. But this just gives you a good idea of what we did, though. We had an enormous line of kids coming through there, so they had a lot of fun. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Chief Harden.
Good evening.
Sir.
It is. Everyone should have a copy of my monthly report. We had 291 calls for service during the month of June. Statistically a little lower than normal, but like I said, 25, 26 years of doing this, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. So that's just the way the ball bounces. So far we're 1,871. As of the end of June, I had one EMT off on workman's comp. He actually returned July 1st, and had one off on FMLA. You can see our fuel usage. It's touch of truck season. We did do one in June, had a couple that ended up getting rained out, but so we're back out doing that. The other thing that we did there at the end of June is we hosted a IPSC training. So Indiana Public Safety Commission, they're the ones that oversee the 800 radio system. Brought them in to talk about the 800 system and kind of give us pointers since we're getting ready to do a switch. And a lot of us don't know the ins and outs of it, have never used it extensively, so that was really good to get the people that oversee the system to come in and talk to us and give us the nuances and the tricks of the trade, so to speak. So, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Superintendent Steele.
So in my report, I wanted to mention a few things that have kind of taken place through June and July. I wasn't able to present at last month's meeting, so I wanted to make sure I went over some of those things with you tonight. The canoe launch, we had DNR come out in June and take a look at the canoe launch, and we cleaned that up. They did bring in gravel to extend at the end of the launch out towards the river. It was pretty muddy out there, and so we extended that out so that people could walk safely through to get to the water. We also discussed the launch, and the launch is not meant for vehicles, and so it's just meant for foot traffic only. It wasn't built or created to withstand the vehicles to go down in towards the water. So we did block that off for safety purposes, and so that is blocked off. We do have some signage, and DNR was gracious enough to give us some signage to put down there, and they actually have a few more signs that they're going to be sending our way that we can put down there as well. And we cleaned off the handicap accessible pad parking spot. We cleaned that up, replaced the sign that was there, and did some cleanup of the overgrown weeds and things that was there as well. And so we took care of all of that. With DNR, we do have a contract with them, so every year they can come back and they can replace any gravel that needs to be replaced down there, and anything else that we might need from them that's approved in their contract, they're willing to do. So that was taken care of, and things look pretty good down there. To update you on the pool, we did, to keep the public aware of what's going on for the month of July, we did post a calendar of hours for the pool for the month of July. Due to the limited access that we have of lifeguards to work, we did have to modify some of those hours at our pool, but we put a monthly calendar out there for them, for the public. We have pursued multiple avenues of trying to get more lifeguards, and it just, at this time, we haven't been very successful in achieving that. Our classes for lifeguard certification closed in May, and so there are no longer classes being held, and so that's hard to get anyone that may want to be certified. And then we did contact multiple other surrounding county pools and asked if they would share with their lifeguards if they wanted to pick up some extra hours, but we have not heard from anyone at this time. So we're just doing what we can with the amount of lifeguards that we have. We did have a short news clip in the News Journal on City TV3 for the month of July as well, explaining that in a little bit more detail. Earthwork began on the 2nd Street Park at John Long Memorial Park, and so that process is going to start taking place, and we will start to lay concrete in the next couple weeks. And as soon as our volunteer has that availability in his schedule, he will get over there to start pouring that concrete. Summer Discovery is going great. We post weekly, daily, as much as we can on Facebook. So if you're ever interested in what they're doing, feel free to check out our Facebook page, because we have lots of activities. They have guest speakers coming in. They've been very, very active this summer. We had 132 registered so far, and daily we had another family register today. And so they register daily to attend Summer Discovery. So Longwood Bridge, we're currently at a little bit of a standstill. We're waiting on concrete. And the company that is in charge of the construction of Longwood Bridge, he's going through another concrete company, and they are a little bit behind on their project. I spoke with him last week, and so as soon as they finish on that project, they're going to come and pour the concrete for the footers of the bridge as soon as possible. He was hoping for this week. We'll see if they're able to get away from their other job and come and do that this week. For the sports, flag football and soccer signups began this week, and they'll go through the next month, and then those sports will start in September. For those, we did add flag football. I know I've talked about that before, but we did add that for this fall, and I think it's going to be a great turnout. It will not interfere with each other, so if a child or kids want to participate in soccer, they can also participate in flag football, and they will not interfere with each other. A few different things going on in the community. We have partnered with Healthy Fayette County and the Purdue Extension Office with a walking program, and this is going to start this fall. Logan, our sports director, has been working closely with them and having meetings with them in preparation of this walking program. And they're going to have a kickoff event coming this fall, and then what they're wanting to do is a scheduled walking program, and so it will be on a calendar, it will be on the community calendar, and we will post it as well, and they will be able to we'll have different locations, whether it's Nickel Plate or it's at Roberts Park or it's somewhere else, and we will post those walking times and days, and whoever wants to participate can come and enjoy a nice stroll wherever it's designated. It's not required to come to everyone, but we just wanted something structured and fun for people to get involved and have a little bit of physical activity as well with walking. Christmas in the Park is continuing on. We've been meeting regularly to get that program up and going for December. We did have Community Youth Day. I know that John had mentioned that. That was a huge success. We had lots of kids come out. We had a lot of vendors and businesses participate in that, and they had a great day. So that was a huge success. And then another thing that we did with our summer discovery staff and our pool staff, we had an active shooter training with Chief Bolos, and that took place this month as well. And just to make everyone aware of and prepared. So we had that training. And the next thing coming up is the fair. So that'll be happening at the start of the first week of August. So, does anyone have any questions?
I do. You have a program or something going on at the park. It's like a frisbee golf.
Disc golf? Mm-hmm.
So what it's called.
Yes, yes.
A couple of people complained about people parking in front of the, I don't know what the catch basins of those,
Okay.
whatever those are called,
The
baskets or whatever.
yeah, the disc golf.
I'm not
Forget the
familiar
term
with
right
it,
now,
so
but
I'm
yeah, I know
sorry.
what you're talking about the
I'm
basket. Yeah.
not smart on that, but they've complained about that and wondering if there could be no parking put in those areas of where that's triangulated at.
Sure. Did they
that's-
specify where they were parking in front of any certain
One
spot?
of the
or-
particular catch areas is all I was told.
Okay.
Because I haven't drove up there and seen what it looks like, so
Mhm.
I'm not very up on it. But
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
they asked that it be looked at and see if they could be, put an area to where, if it's like however it's laid out, there could be no parking in those particular areas, because I guess one person or two people is parking right in front of the target zone, if you will.
Okay. Okay.
So they were having an issue with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Your signage looks nice in the park.
Yes.
Looks very nice.
Thank you. Yes, they actually had that last year, and And so,
I must have missed it, but it was just.
well,
it
no,
kinda
it just was put up.
Oh, okay, okay.
In the last 2 weeks,
Okay.
yes. And so that was a goal of ours for this summer, is to
Okay.
make sure we got
Well, it
that
really
put up.
pops.
So,
It
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
When
you.
you mentioned,
you.
Oh, yeah.
well, I'm not sure, maybe I missed it, but when you mentioned the lifeguards,
Yes.
they do have to be certified.
They do have to be certified through Red Cross. It is it's an intense training that or certification that they have to go through. And there's actually a pre-certification to see if they meet the requirements to get, to move on to the next level, into the actual class setting of it. They have to be able to swim laps, go to the deep end and the bottom and pick up a 10-pound brick and tread water for 3 minutes. And so they have to be able to show that they are able to withstand being able to save someone. And so they do that pre-class, and then if they pass that, then they can move on to the actual class.
Yeah,
Portion.
because back when, they could just get up there, kids could just get up there and be lifeguards, but now they have to be certified, which
They do.
is obvious why. I mean, you would want that to
Yes,
happen.
yes, they have to be certified in lifeguard, also CPR and first aid.
And I think you also said, I think you also said that there's a shortage of session locations.
There are, yes, there's only 2 individuals in our region that are certified to hold that class. And they do their classes in the spring and, anywhere between April and May. And we utilize both of those. So we actually held 2 classes this year and offered it to anyone that wanted to participate. But they don't do their classes because they are managers of pools in their cities. And so they have to then work for the summer, so they don't have any open classes for the summer.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief Jones.
Good evening, council.
Aiden.
All right, monthly report for June for the Connersville Fire Department. We'll start off with the overtime. Total overtime was $5,929.11. The FLSA portion of that was $581.67, and the difference was for manpower shortages. If you scroll over to the right, you'll see the running totals of this year compared to the last 2 years. We're doing pretty good on overtime this year. Everybody's healthy, so we're having a pretty good year. Moving on down to fuel usage, we used 303 gallons of fuel for a total of $1,217.01. Fuel's down a little bit. We're doing a lot of classroom training over the last few weeks, so we're not getting out and doing out the hands-on training like we were until we get this course done. So that obviously uses a little bit less fuel. Moving on down to total incidents for June, we had 152. 30 of those were fire-related, 116 were EMS-related, and 6 auto accidents. That brings our total for the year so far to 931 incidents. On the next page, we have our training hours for June. We have 84.5 instructed hours of training. 69 of those were fire-related training and 15.5 was EMS-related. Over to the right, you'll see a total so far this year of 378 total instructed training hours. Moving on down to inspections, we had 20 inspections for the month. A few of those were re-inspections, and over to the right, you'll see we got a total so far of 144. And then fire investigation hours, we had 12.5 hours of fire investigation for June. That's all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
I have some questions. The crash doors, when you do your inspections, do you check those for operation plus alarms?
If they have alarms, depending on the occupancy type,
Right.
the alarms have to function, but the doors also have to function. And then you can't require any more than 15 pounds to actuate the panic bars.
Now, is there any
So we do-
certification put on those doors that they were certified any particular time of day or monthly, or however that is?
I'm not aware of anybody else checking them, probably other than, you know, a fire inspection, or unless they have some type of maintenance company that checks them and certifies them, but they don't, actual fire doors will be tagged, but as far as egress doors that have panic hardware on them, they're usually we check them, and, you know, when we do inspections, so.
But if you check those, you don't have to document that as far as on the
Not on the
door.
door itself. We document it. We check them. If they pass, we move on to the next door. And anything that doesn't pass, we obviously, you know, note it in our inspection report, and they have to fix them.
And that's not required by law, tagging the door.
To tag the door, no. Not that I'm aware of. It's not for my department, no.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Bowles.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So going to the monthly report, our overtime is slightly better than last month. However, it's still high due to vacations and personal days getting used through the summer. We have 1,899 gallons of fuel. Any questions on those totals? Our incident reports, slightly down on traffic accidents in the city last month. Total incidents for the month is 994. In June, our drug take-in was 80 grams of heroin and fentanyl, 15 grams of marijuana, 132 grams of meth, 377 needles were taken in, and 139 paraphernalia items. 7 of those drug incidents were by use of our canines. To go back to our incidents, you might, when I give you guys those reports on a month, you might only see, so on the drugs, it might be 2, and the paraphernalia might just be 1. It'll be typically under a different call, traffic stops or suspicious activity or something. So that's why those numbers look low, and I'm reporting something quite a bit higher. So our training hours, we had 106 hours of department training. K9 added 30 hours of training and 6 demos. We also have our newest officer, Officer Smith, who's finally got approved by PERF, so he'll be transitioning to road training here shortly. I just want the public to be aware that we are having an active shooter, countywide active shooter, tomorrow, the 18th, and Wednesday, the 19th, at the high school. It's all of our county and city emergency services, the sheriff's department, police department, fire, EMS, and EMA. So that'll be from 6 to 2 in case you guys get any calls or see sirens or hear sirens or whatnot up there at the high school.
This is training only,
Just
right?
training only, right. I know we'll get calls wondering what's going on up there, but that's what's going on.
I wanted to clarify
The theater
that.
kids are helping you guys out.
Huh?
The theater kids will be up there helping.
Yes, yeah, that makes for pretty realistic training. It's good training that way, so. Any questions? All right, have a good
Sir.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
If we went down to old business, anyone have any old business? Miscellaneous business, I got one. On August 28th, we have our second farm to table we're doing. Last year was a big hit, and we decided to open up a lot more tickets this year. So the farm to table is from 6:30 is happy hour, and dinner's at 7:30. They have different menu options this time. We have a prime center cut beef, a tenderloin wrapped, or grilled bacon wrapped tenderloin, or vegetarian meal. This is a fine dining experience. This is high quality food. We have stretched out, and we got more local produce, which is our goal. That's why it's called farm to table. A lot of it's grown here, produced here, and it's going to be cooked on the street. We're going to do it right in front of the Arts Association again. It's just a beautiful event. Had a lot of compliments from it last year, so we opened it up this year for a few more tickets. So if you want a ticket, you can get them here at City Hall, Dinah on them. If you want to reach out to my office, and Dinah can get you set up with tickets. But I encourage you to get them because they went fast last year and they're going fast this year. So I don't have a number of seats yet. We'll just have to kind of holding that one in for a little bit. So we'll see what we can handle. Last year we kept it small on purpose because we want to make sure we could handle it and make sure we did it right. So this year is time to grow it a little bit. So if you want tickets, just call here at City Hall and Dinah can get you taken care of. Is there any other miscellaneous business? Public forums. Anyone from the public got anything to say? All right, group. Okay, now I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Second. And second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Have a wonderful evening.